section will be on new features. There are a lot of new features on 4.19, so we sorted them by theme in order to be easier to understand. Then we'll go very quickly through the bug fixes. There are a few bug fixes, but still there are a couple of them. And then we'll go through also the warnings, so the things that you need to be aware before upgrading to the version, to make sure that there's no surprise when you migrate. So first features on the new features. So the first area where we introduced a lot of improvements is on the queue management, and especially on the dependencies. So on Cerberus, probably most of you already know that you can inside all the test cases that belong to the same campaign, you can put links between them, so that you can force Cerberus to execute the test in a specific orders, making sure that one test is not executed until another one ended correctly. So that was already an existing feature, but we have introduced a couple of features on top of that, answering some of the use cases that our users asked for. So the first one was that we have introduced the capability to put a delay between two executions, meaning that you can put links between two test cases, but between them introduce a delay in minutes. So most of that use case is when you have asynchronous treatments that execute on the back office. So you are able to run first tests immediately, and then wait for 1, 2, 3 hours until the second part of the campaign is executed. And between them, probably you have some asynchronous treatments that execute to perform the necessary actions. So there's no real limitation. You can even put things like in hours or days. The purpose is to keep the execution pending without taking a slot in terms of execution. So the queue will suspend all execution until you reach the number of time. So that's the first feature. I will illustrate then with a campaign that illustrates all the change that we've done on the dependency and queue management. Another improvement that we have done on the same area is that sometimes you could execute inside the campaign some test cases that has link that are not inside that specific campaign. And on the previous version, it was holding the test case forever, waiting the test case to be executed. But if it's not part of the campaign, it never gets executed. So we changed that behavior so that now by default, if you submit inside the campaign a test case that has a dependency that does not belong to the campaigns, the dependency will still appear so that you will see it in the GUI, but it will be in an ignored status. So and the execution will be released immediately. So that makes management of dependency a bit more convenient because you're not forced to put all execution inside the campaign. Two other features before I show it inside the tool directly. Another improvement on the link is that now you have before Cerberus was releasing the next execution when dependency, no matter what was the result of the previous execution. So now you can tune the behavior and you can select when you put the dependency, we'll see it on the GUI, but you can put whether the previous execution needs to be okay or whether you don't care about the status code and you release immediately after the previous execution has been submitted, whatever is the status of the first execution. And the last feature is that when you had test cases that had links between them inside the campaign, previously, if you were re-executing inside the campaign the first test, even if you were executing the following test, it was still pointing to the previous data, the original data that has been created, so original properties coming from the first execution. So now if you resubmit any execution, it will by default take the latest data from the attached and the linked execution. So again, it makes the administration and rerun of partial campaigns a lot easier because you're not forced to re-execute completely a new campaign. You can resubmit 2 or 3 execution and the links will be done automatically. So I will illustrate all that directly inside the tool by submitting an example campaign that I've designed for the purpose. So that campaign just includes 5 or 6 test cases that has various links, and I'll show you how it's displayed. So here I can start to illustrate the first feature is that on that specific test case, we have added a dependency that does not exist in the campaign. So if I check here the list of dependency on that test cases, we see here that it points to a test case that is 001B, 1A, sorry, that does not exist in the campaign. So, and we see here that Cerberus basically it has created the dependency, but it's in ignored state status. And basically the status of the queue here is queued, while all the other are queued with dependency, meaning that the reason why it has not been submitted is because it's waiting for an available slot for the execution to be submitted, but the dependency will just be ignored. So if I refresh, so here now, so it's that test cases, we can see now that it has been released, even if the dependency on demo does not exist. The second feature is that test case here has been configured with a delay of 1 minute. And we see here on that status that all the first execution had been submitted, and it's waiting the delay in order to release the other one. So here, no execution are currently running because basically it's waiting for that minute delay between the previous execution. So if we see how it's configured, so here again, it's on the dependency tab. So we see here that that dependency against the test 7 has been put 1 minute delay. And it's because of that minute that the execution has not been submitted. So if I refresh that, so we see now that it has been released. We see here that it has been released at 13:10, while the previous execution, that is this one, has ended in 13:09. So we see the 1 minute gap between the two execution that prevent that test to be executed right after the first one. So that's the first two illustrations. Then the other illustration is on the definition of the dependency. So it's that new combo box here that allows you to select the type of dependency. So now you can decide whether the link between the previous test cases is made whatever is the status, or only if the execution ends in OK. Meaning that if the execution doesn't end in OK, the queue will enter in error and the execution will not be submitted. In terms of rerun, which is the last use case that I wanted to illustrate. So if I take that execution here, the last one that has been submitted, so if I check inside the detail and I check the properties that it has been inherited, is the property that is coming from the execution 45 here, stands by 45. That correspond to that execution. We see here that it's the execution 45. So if I resubmit that execution and only that one, so we'll wait. So it's submitted a new execution ID that is 49. We'll wait that it's Okay, so it's finished, 49. If I now resubmit again that the last execution, and I will check on it. So I will see that now it has taken the execution 49. So it really picked the last execution that has been submitted previously. On the last version, it was still taking the 45, no matter if you were executing a rerun before, which was quite annoying because that forced you to resubmit the full campaign. So now you can submit only a part of the campaign a lot easier. That's quite convenient when you are tuning your test at the beginning of the executions. So that's for the queue management and basically the dependency management. Now we have introduced also quite a few features on the API call management. The call service action that allows to make some API calls has been improved. First improvement what we've done is that when you call a service and when that service has been attached, it's not mandatory, but you can attach a service to an application. And when you attach a service to the application, if you submit the execution, it will take the correct environment in order to complete for the correct endpoint. So that's quite convenient, but because that means that you can configure your services independently from any environment. And if you attach it to a correct application where you configure for every environment the endpoint of the corresponding environment, it will take the context of the execution of your test case to point to the correct environment. So it's quite convenient. We have also introduced a simulation feature that allows to execute an API call directly from the GUI without being forced to create a test case. So when you configure your service, you can now directly execute the API call directly inside the GUI, even if the call has not been integrated in any test cases. That's also a quite convenient feature if you're tuning your API call and you want to change it and test it immediately without resubmitting the full test case. And the last improvement on the API perimeter is everything that is linked with authorization. So we have implemented all the standard authorization mechanism, so bearer token, API key, and basic authentication. And I will show you directly inside the GUI. So I will take probably I will take that service as an example. So first thing to illustrate is that here you find on the bottom of the module the section that allows to make some simulation call. And basically, in order to perform the simulation call, you just need to click save and call. And the call of the API is made directly from that screen. And on the bottom, you will find what you usually get inside the test case is all the trace. So here you get the response of the complete call performed. You will get here the detail of the response, including all the header and all the necessary data in terms of header and timing and so on. Then you will get the detail of the request and the detail of the request in terms of header again and all the body that has been that is been put. If you have attached your service to the proper application, here you can change the environment right away. So here, if I made the call in dev QA or whatever, I just pick the environment, and that will make the call on the corresponding environment. So here it has no impact because my no matter what is the environment, the path is fully provided inside the service definition, so it makes no impact. But here you can, when you make the simulation call, it's on that first tab that you define local parameters that will be used. Usually, all those parameters is used in the context of the test case execution, so you can configure it right now. Same way, if your service is using some variables inside the body or whatever, here you can hard code the values of your property here with the specific values in order to perform the simulation call. So that's for the simulation tool. On top of that simulation tool, so that new authorization tab that now allows to manage some basic authentication information. So either you can select an API key type of authorization. So here you put the key and the value that will be basically either that will be sent inside the query string directly in the request, or either it can be integrated and injected inside the header of the call. So that means that if I put header, automatically Cerberus will automatically add dynamically the necessary header. So you no longer need to manually create them inside the header section. It will be automatically generated by the data you provide. So second method is a bearer token. So here you put directly the value of your bearer token. Please note that the token and password are protected. So if here I define the value, once I saved it, if I reopen the services, it will be the value will be hidden. So you won't be able to have access to the token any longer. So only Cerberus will have the value. If you want to change it, you will need to change the complete value of the token. So we secure the sensitive and the secret information from Cerberus directly. And the last authentication method that is quite convenient here is the basic authentication that is sent inside the header. So here you directly your user and password, and it's Cerberus that will make the work to format the proper header that will be introduced inside the header automatically. So that prevents you to build the base 64 strings that are integrated inside the header. So quite a few improvements in terms of API call. So all the features that I provide, so especially the simulation call can be used on any type of services. Of course, authorization makes sense only for REST calls. So that's for the API calls improvements. Then we have made some improvements on the variabilization. So the first one is that we have changed significantly the way we build the variables, especially for managing the dates. So we have introduced a new syntax that is a lot more flexible than the previous one. So basically, with that new syntax, if you use the keyword system and then you separate in two parts the data, on the first part, which is the X part, you will define where you put in terms of calendar, so on which day, which time you want to be put. So you can use here the keywords such as today, yesterday, tomorrow, but you can now also say I want to be on the last year. So if you do year -1, Cerberus will put itself on last year, exactly last year. Year +1 will be next year. Same thing for month, week, day, hour, minutes. So it means that with that you can put the calendar whenever you want. And then the second part, which is a why. So we have reused the standard Java patterns with the standard syntax. So it has basically most of the time it's one or a couple of letters that define the format that you want to get the result of the data you need. So if I illustrate here with a couple of examples, this syntax system day minus 13 dash EEEE, day minus 14, that means 13 days ago, and EEE, which is the day that will report the full name of the day of the week. That one will provide minus, so 3 minutes ago, the number of minutes in the clock. Today, that performs. So here I'm today, and DD is the number of day of the month. So that way of putting the syntax, it still maintained all the previous system variables that were handling the days, but makes it a lot more generic, answering a lot more use cases without being forced to do some Groovy or JavaScript syntax that sometimes could be a bit tricky to maintain. Another significant improvement we did is on the file management, and especially we have created a new variable, a new keyword that is called datalib. So from that version, you can now directly access to a datalib value without being forced to create a property. And that has been used to answer the first use case, which is to better handle the file content when you do some tests on upload and download some specific files. So this is a test case to illustrate. So basically, that test case, it upload and download a file directly on the robot side. Before we were doing that, so you were, in order to make a file available from the browser, so you had to create so you still need to create an action in order to upload the file, and that action is a upload file to robot. It takes two parameters. First one is the name of the file, so this is where the file will be uploaded on the robot side, and the second parameter was the content of the file in a base64 format. The problem of that is that every time you wanted to upload a file content, you need to convert it to base64 and to paste the result of the base64 into that field, which was not very, very convenient. So what we've changed here is basically what appears on that action is that now you can use exactly the same syntax. So you still upload the file to the robot, you still define here the path and the name of the file that you want to upload. But now here, instead of doing the base64, you just need to create a datalib. The datalib needs to be in a file type. So file1 is the name of the datalib, and then you just put .base64, and Cerberus will automatically generate the base64 file. If I check how the datalib is configured to make it work, so that datalib is file1, that's the name of the datalib. It has been put inside the file type, and here I already uploaded the file into it was a JSON file. So the beauty of that is that you can now all the file that you use as test data, you can upload them inside datalib directly. And once you have created your datalib, you can use them in any of your test cases. And you no longer have any restriction in terms of size, because sometimes for very big files, putting the full content of the base64 could have some problems, could cause some issue. So now there's no real limitation. So basically, you upload the file and you just point to the base64 version when you upload them, and it works directly. So if I check the last execution, how it appears, so this is what is done on the file. So we can see here what Cerberus execute behind the definition. We see here so that's the whole behavior where we see the base64 that has been provided, and on that action we see now that basically the variable base64 has been replaced by the real value of the base64. So if the file is too large, of course, it will not display the full base64, but still the proper value will be used when uploading to the robot, securing that it's the correct file that has been uploaded. So that's removed all the potential limitation we could have on size of file handling when uploading to the robot side. Next small modification we've did is there was a couple of layout modification on on the datalib combo, and for example, we have introduced just a new flag that that allows to ignore or not the first file of the file. So previously, that checkbox was grouped with the checkbox that allow to automatically create the subdata, which was not very convenient. So now we have separated the two information. So now you can, on every CSV file that you want to upload, if you have some files that use or not the first line, you can configure it directly here per file in order to handle the two cases easily. Next changes is on the application definition. We have created, so it's a common use case that we had is that sometimes you wanted to put some secret information attached to an environment of an application. And from previous version of Cerberus, there was no those information was not secured. So we have introduced the possibility to add two secrets at the application environment level that again will be protected. So that means that if you update your application and you put the secret value, it will be by default hidden from all executions, but also even if you want to edit the application. So that allow you to put some information such as it could be token or password. You can now save them directly attached to the application environment and reuse them on any of your test case using system variables. But you can do it in a secured way, making sure that no one will be able to get the value of the secrets to reuse outside of Cerberus. We also, I will show you after on the model, we also on the same model added a checkbox that allow to activate or deactivate, disable and or enable a specific environment. So if you disable temporary or an environment at an application level, and if you submit a campaign, so that's the last improvement we've done. Previously, it was generating an error if it could not find the application environment. So now it just ignore the cases without creating an entry in error. So that's also a bit convenient. So when you have, imagine you have an application when you want to create an environment and you temporarily want to disable that environment because it's suffering some instability, you just can uncheck the box, and if you have campaigns against that application, it will not generate a lot of error. It will just ignore the corresponding execution. So if I show you how it appears, so I will open, for instance, a Cerberus application that has quite a few environments. So as you see, so here now, so the checkbox is there. You can activate and deactivate a specific environment at an application level, and all the secret. So I will pick here, for instance, we see that the secrets has been hidden, so it's protected, replaced by X. And we see here, so the variables were existing before, so we have added 2 extra variables. I think there was only 2 variables, now we have 4, and we added 2 secrets that did not exist before. Okay, so that's for the application management. Next one is on the improvement on the engine itself. So on the drag and drop action. On previous version, when you were performing a drag and drop and you were misspelling the droppable field, so the target of your drag and drop, the error message was not accurate, so it was reporting a non-existing source, which was potentially wrong. So now we secured that the messages are fully correct. So again, one execution to illustrate that. So on that step, I'm making a drag and drop where the first field does not exist. So I see here it's a draggable that is not has not been found by Cerberus, and the second one is really the droppable that has not been found but has been reported. So that avoids some potential headache, and it makes a lot easier for the user to understand which of the XPath was not correct when entering the action. On the engine again, so you can override the timeout parameter at action, control, or even step level. So we have enlarge the scope of the timeout on that mechanism. So before it was only taking care of timeout when trying to access an element. So now it also override potential timeout that there could be on loading a page or executing a JavaScript on the robot side. So that makes the scope of the timeout more complete and could solve some strange behavior that could happen. On the engine again, that is specific to iOS Android, we have introduced some new actions in order to be able to lock or unlock any device, and also to rotate the screen of the device. So that's new action that has been performed directly for iOS and Android. Next feature still on the engine. So we also improve the messages when we interact with an element. So that's small example to illustrate. So now when you interact with an element, so Cerberus will tell you how many elements he detected with the XPath that you provided. So that could give some interesting clues when trying to diagnose a test case. It could happen sometimes that you perform an XPath and you have a feeling that the action was not performed, and it could happen that in fact the action really was performed but on the wrong field that you wanted to point. So now Cerberus will provide to the user the number of elements it found. So here is an example of a correct XPath. So basically it's pointing to an ID that is unique. So Cerberus will report and confirm that the ID and element is unique. So obviously we selected the correct one. And this is an action that is, so it's an XPath that is a lot more generic. And on that page, 7 element has been found with that XPath. So basically what Cerberus reports is that it found 7 and it clicked on the first one. So that could give a clue on is that the correct behavior that I wanted, because probably I wanted to click on the second or the third. Here it's the first one that has been clicked. The switch to window action also has a lot of improvement on the messages when you execute the action. Now it reports directly all the context information when you want to perform the switch to Windows. So the message appears like that. So it will confirm that the focus has changed to a new Windows, and it will remind to the user on which URL of the current page it is, and what is the title of the page where it has moved. It will remind the initial windows, so where it came from before changing, and it will also remind all the available windows that are available during the action. So if you have many tabs open or many windows open, it will report here all the URLs and titles of every windows, so that if you fail to point to the correct windows, now you have all the trace necessary to either perform a regex on the URL or regex on the title directly without any risk of taking the wrong value. So that's again quite convenient when you want to switch windows and you're a bit blind on which URL should I point or which title should I point to select the correct element. The scroll to element has been a lot improved, so that's only on iOS and Android. That's probably an improvement that we'll try to do also on Selenium in the future. Is that now it's the scroll is a lot more clever. So it will scroll doing some periodic swipe until it finds the element that has been pointed. And you can also, on top of that, define an offset so that when it has found the element, it will put the window at the precise location to handle the offset between the view of the screen and the position of the element. I think that's it for the engine. So now it's all the improvements that we've done on the GUI, and that's available on all screens. So here to illustrate, I did open the robot screen. On the things that we have improved here, we have introduced a reset button that allows to remove, you know, that you can save the position of the column and the number of columns that you want to display here on a specific area. So that can be saved using the save button. So if I reload the page, it still have the new layout I decided. You can now reset the setting going back to the default behavior. So by doing the reset, it will remove all your local configuration going back to the default values of the view. Another improvement is that before, when you were saving a view, it was also saving the page where you were located. So now it's removing the page number because basically when you save, you don't want to save where you are on the navigation, but you just want to save the layout. So now that has been fixed. And we have also created here a small button that allows to refresh the content of the page without doing a full refresh of the page. So that could be quite convenient, for instance, sometimes on the execution list. If you have some execution running and you want to see the latest execution, you just click on the refresh and you are not forced to full refresh the complete page. It's not necessary. It's not put directly inside the changelog, but we also optimized a bit the number of reloads on the data table. So some pages could become a bit long because there was unnecessary calls that were making from the GUI. So that has been fixed to optimize the response time of the GUI. Quite a few improvements also on the test case script page. First one is that some auto completion has been improved, so it's a lot more contextual. So here, for instance, if I'm on the select box, if I want to choose an option from a select box, so Cerberus will propose only the syntax that makes sense with the context of the select box. So how do I select my option inside the select box? Same thing, if I do a switch to window action, it will propose me only title or URL without regex. So it will guide a lot more the user putting the correct syntax on those two actions. We also have made an improvement on those buttons basically. So here you had the save and rerun. Now we've tried to reduce the number of buttons that you click when you administer and when you maintain your test cases. And a common use case is most of the time you save your test case, and once it has been saved, you rerun it. Now, when you edit and you change anything on one test case, the button to rerun automatically takes the save. So that's a lot more convenient because it means on one click. So I'll try to pick another example. I think this one is better. That means that in one click, I can save and rerun directly. So that save one click and makes things faster. Next one. Where was it? Yes, that's the auto completion tool. Next feature is linked with impact analysis. So that's an important feature that was quite weighted. So we now have an impact analysis tool. So that means that if you want to search for a specific string or value against the full repository of test cases, you now have a tool that will make a search against every action, every control, every step, everything that has been configured in test Cerberus. So you just put here the string of what you want to search. So it could be, for instance, a property name. It could be here I put, for instance, file1, which is the name of my data lib that I used previously. So if I search everything that's in file1, I can see that here it's currently being used in two test cases inside actions test cases. And I can see that here it has been used on that field. Here it has been used on this value 2 of an action that is upload robot. So that's quite convenient because you can also filter, you can sort by overwrite on the timeout and so on. So it makes change and administering transversally all test cases a lot more easily. So of course you have button to, once you have found the perimeter of your test case, being able to go directly to the test case and potentially change it if you wanted to change it. So that's a quite convenient tool that makes search against the full repository a lot easier. The property tab of the test case definition has been also quite significantly improved. So both visually, it's a lot easier to feed. And on top of that, it now provides a lot more features. So in terms of property, here it's an example on getting a value from the HTML. So previously, we were only able to get the value of an element that you pointing. And now you can get a lot more than just the value. You can get the number of elements that Cerberus found. So that's quite interesting if you want to count the number of lines inside a table reported, for instance. You can get directly the full content of a raw element, some specific attribute values of the DOM. You can also take the full list of the values. So that's common usage that most of you perform when you want to check some controls. So I'm searching for a value and I want to check that the list of the result as a specific number. So now that becomes a lot easier to configure directly inside Cerberus. Again, without doing some JavaScript and so on. It's directly available inside the property definition. We have introduced, for those of you that use test link, we now have a module on top of Selenium IDE. We now are able to import some test cases that has been created by TestLink. Just like any import, it will provide and feed automatically the external provider with external reference to a TestLink and the internal TestLink ID directly inside the reference. So once you have imported, you can keep track of all the test cases that comes from TestLink and potentially reload them if necessary. Please note that it's just like Selenium IDE, but you can load bulk files, so you're not limited to one file. You can upload here as many files as you want, and Cerberus will import them in batch, creating all the necessary test cases attached to the file that you import. So that's for the import module. Quite a few navigation improvements. So on the campaign execution page, all the buttons has been put on top of the screen for direct action. Sometimes there were buttons on bottom. All of them were moved here on top of the screen. And by default, we have hidden with checkbox extra reporting information that was not necessary to all of you. So you can still have them displayed, but by default, to make the page a lot easier to read, we hide them. So that's on the GUI part. And then we also made quite a few improvements on the history management. So that's the history view of a campaign execution. So the graphs have not changed, but we have added here just a summary of the availability rate of the campaign execution. So here we see that we have only 2 successful execution. So the first graph reports the 2 successful execution against the 30 run that has been performed on the perimeter that I selected. And the second graph is making the same calculation, but by time. So we will consider if this one is okay, it will consider that until the next one, everything is okay. And again, if it failed. So that makes, if you have some rerun mechanism, the second graph represent more the real availability rate of the campaign. And note also that you can declare now some false negative. So imagine that campaign that has been reported as failed. If I want to force it as being not failed, I can now here force it to be a false negative. And if I refresh my page, I see now that it has been considered as okay. So I still see that the center of the point is still red, but the external layout is green. So it's globally considered as green. And now I have 3 okay execution. So that allows to also be as clever as possible and as accurate as possible on those KPI. Exactly the same mechanism exists at the execution level. So maybe I will not go through a complete detail, but just quickly illustrate. So here I have one execution that I declare as false negative. If I take another one, so the false negative can be declared here on the control status. So here I declared it again as false negative, and the same way it will refresh, increasing my availability rate. Next one is so that the direct link, so both execution so we have put some buttons to access directly to the history of execution directly from both the execution and the test case script. So now you can have access directly. So before it was available, but inside the menu. So we put it there because it's quite convenient to see the history of an execution when analyzing it. And it's the same thing exists at the campaign execution where we've made direct links to consult the history of the execution. We have also introduced the parameter to tune whether the detail of the campaign is fully displayed or not. So this is an example of a small campaign. So now you can define as a parameter the number of lines after which automatically Cerberus will move into auto hiding mode. So the thing interesting on that, if you have a large campaign like that, this one, so by default, it will hide all OK execution. But if you display a very small campaign, by default, it will display all executions. Sometimes we want the two behavior when a campaign is small, we prefer to see all of them, even if all are okay. But after a certain number of test cases, we prefer to hide them because it's useless to see pages of OK. So a parameter not now allowed to automatically display or not, depending on the size of the campaign. Next one, the home page. So we have added a small widget on the home page that display currently running execution. So if I illustrate here, I will take a campaign, I run it. And when the campaign execute, we see here that we have now a widget that automatically refresh and no need to refresh the page. It dynamically it's plugged to the Cerberus backoffice, and as soon as one execution is finished or any new execution that is submitted, it will refresh automatically that layout, so that allows to follow up a bit the activity on the queue. If my queue is saturated, how fast is my queue executed? So that it gives real-time insight from the execution of the engine. We have started to put some features, so I will come back probably in next version on the bug tracker integration. So here we started with the first level of integration with Jira and GitHub. Next version, so I will not make a full demo on that. I will just show where you can configure the bug tracker connector. I will make a better demo on next version because we have added a lot more connector on the next version, and it's we improved again the integration. The purpose of that is that for every application, you can now here define your bug tracker, whether you use Jira or GitHub. You configure on Cerberus, for instance, if you're on Jira, your project code that you use on Jira side and the type of ticket that you want to create. And if you configure that on top of the credentials that needs to be introduced as parameter on Cerberus, you will be able to do two things. One thing is directly from the execution screen in one click. Cerberus will directly create the task or the bug or whatever you asked, you configured here. It will configure and feed automatically the content of the ticket on Jira side with a full link and detail of the execution on Jira side. And it will make the link. So it will ask Jira to create the ticket, get the ID of the ticket from Jira, and link it with the corresponding test case on Cerberus. So it's in one click. It will perform the creation of the ticket and the link with Cerberus. When before you had to click from the GUI to move to the external tool, feed the information, and then go back to Cerberus in order to perform the link. all of that will be performed automatically from the execution screen. And for those of you or for the test cases that are very accurate, you will be able to activate automatically the creation of the ticket. So once the campaign is executed, if it detects a fail, it automatically creates the ticket on the system that you have configured as a bug tracker. Last no, I think that was the last one is also linked with the bug tracker. So next version, and I will conclude the presentation with that, is that on next version, on top of Jira and GitHub, we have introduced Azure DevOps and GitLab. If you need some others, the connector is quite easy to develop. So if you have some specific tools, as long as they have an API, it's quite easy to integrate. But again, I will perform a lot much better demo on next version of Cerberus. So quickly, because it's almost the end of the session. So in terms of bugs, there was a couple of errors that we fixed, especially when making a control on an unsuccessful service call. So it was generating a severe error on Cerberus that has been fixed. There was some issues on adding an environment to an existing application, so that has been also fixed. There was difficulties on deleting some environments if the countries were empty, were with empty data, so that also have been fixed. And there was quite a few errors when you were creating a data lib directly with uploading a file on it, so that was not working at all. So that has also been fixed. On the things you need to consider when you upgrade that version. So we've seen it is a change of syntax on some system, some variables, system variables linked on dates. We have removed the use of SOAP call inside datalib, so you can still perform SOAP call but using services. But inside datalib, before you could make a link directly with a SOAP call. Now you can no longer. You need to point the datalib to a service, and then inside the service you configure that as a SOAP call. That simplifies the GUI. We have hidden the test folder screen just to save a bit space inside the menu. So we're not sure that we'll keep on hiding that. We'll share with those of you if it's a constraint. It's not necessary anymore because basically the folder is created automatically when you define it. So there's no point for folder creation, but it could still be used when you want to delete a folder. So we'll see how we solve that. Please note that the screen is still available. It's just that it's no longer available from the menu. So we'll see. What has been completely removed was the SQL library, so it was no longer used and it was no longer working. So we removed it from the menu. So if you want to perform SQL libraries, just put them on the data lib. So the data lib is the object to use if you want to perform some SQLs. Important thing as well is when we moved, we haven't found any regression and so far from all the users that are using Kafka, but there was a significant upgrade in terms of version of the client library of the Kafka components. So test your Kafka scenario if you move to that version. Very quickly, and then we'll stop here, is the next view on the next step of the roadmap. So there is more API call simulation improvement on the next version. There was a lot of improvement on that version, but there will be more in the next one. On next one, will allow to pause and resume campaign execution. Full execution of the campaign, you can pause it completely and resume it directly within one click. We are currently making some improvement on identifying the flaky execution to report them on campaign, so that it helps QA to focus on the test cases that requires a lot of retry before providing the good result. We had already mentioned Azure and GitLab connectors and improve the connectivity with Bug Tracker. I will make the demo next time on next version. Test cases can now be mute, will be able to be mute on the next version, meaning that you can mute. Mute meaning that it will not perform any notification. So if the test fail, it will not report any error. It will just execute in a muted mode without any complaint, but still execute. And there are more campaign tool GUI execution analysis that has been introduced, a new screen, and that will be activated by default. And even more, which is something that we've been working since quite a few months now, is the migration to Selenium 4 and Appium 2. The next version will be, so it will be compatible with both Selenium 3 and Selenium 4, but next version will not be compatible with Appium 1. So those of you that will want to move to the next version will have to move your local infrastructure, if you have one, to Appium 2. It's transparent if you use a cloud provider like BrowserStack or Lambda Test, because it's dynamically perform on their side. But if you manually have a local infrastructure that is on Appium 1, you will have to change it. And we're also working on the test case versioning. So today we only have a number that save the test case number each time you save it. So we plan to save the full value of the full test case when you save it, so that we want to be able to restore a previous version of the test case, or to revert a modification more easily than we can do today. So that's for next version that probably will describe in the next release that will probably come in 1 or 2 months from now. Most of those features are already available in beta mode on the QA environment. Sorry, I've 5-minute delay. It was quite long. Not very interactive because there was too many things to share. Sorry. So next time I'll try to make a release that is a bit smaller, so that it will give more room to the question and answer. I hope the demonstration was clear. So if not, don't hesitate to come back on Slack, and we'll improve the next session to make it even more understandable. Thank you to everyone, and have a nice afternoon.